Hi, I'm your host, Cordelia Gaffar, the Emotions Opener. Welcome to the Free to Be Show. Do you remember when you were a young girl, joyful, playful, and carefree? Even into your young adulthood, you were fully present and confident. Somehow, as your role changed, you gave up your power to the powers that be. Join me on an exploration of how the inward shows up in our collective consciousness. Are you enjoying the full beauty of the human experience? Taking time to replenish body, mind, and soul? Are you free? Let's see. Hello and salam alaikum. For everyone who is here for my live today with Toni Jones, although the title is Me versus Every Me, for Muslim women, do join in and, of course, invite a Muslim woman. If you are a Muslim woman, let me know and send me your salam. Hey, Marcy. And share this with others. I am really excited to share Toni's music with you for those of you who are not familiar with her. Hey, Kaz. Hey, Maxine. And for those of you who know and love Toni Jones already, you're really going to enjoy this conversation. So, I'll give you a little background. I met her actually a year ago because one of my virtual retreats I was having was about, I think the one last December was called Embody Peace. And I needed the right music for that. And so a friend of mine had introduced me to her music, and I used her music for the retreat. And so then we connected, and I actually, she was the last episode of the Free to Be show for my second season, which ended March 2021. And the next week, she attended my book launch for my book, Detached Love. So I've known Toni for like the past year on a professional and a personal level. And I deeply resonate with all her music and her whole vibe. What I thought was really interesting and why it specifically applies to Muslim women is, as Muslims, we're discouraged from listening to too much music. And if we listen to music, we must listen to music which will elevate our souls. And as you can see, she is an affirmation music artist, right? I dare say she's the one who created this genre. And so this is akin to what in Islam we call Nasheeds. And these are basically songs for the elevation of your soul. More specifically, like Islamic Nasheeds usually refer to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We just say peace and blessings be upon him. And of course to the elevation of our tradition and ideals. So, but as a human being, right, you have to do things that elevate your soul and keep you in high vibration. And so that's what I love about her music. And as soon as she comes in, I'll add her to the live, and then you'll hear us talking about more about it. I just want to share, I'm looking at my notes. There's something I had posted earlier in the week, and I want to share this with you as we're waiting for her to join us. Self-love combats the core of the psychological and emotional dysmorphia. It is the antidote to all that ills the souls of generational curses upon women, gender-based violence that has found its home deep within the great, 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 great granddaughter's psyche, and thus driven us to find light. The light is the remembrance of love, the love, the connection to the oneness, Allah and divinity itself. So shortly here, I'll be welcoming Toni to join us. And there she is. So let's see. Just request to join. Oh, there you join. And she should be popping on shortly. So welcome everyone who's here. Salam alaikum, Bahia. Hello, Nicole. And let's see. Okay. Hey, girl. Hey.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. You
Good,
know,
good.
you know what's
It's
so
been a
funny?
minute.
I know, right? Oh my goodness. This year has been fire for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it has. It has. It's been responsibility, but it's been a blessing. Hi, everybody.
Hey, can I just first and foremost tell you congratulations?
Thank you. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
And it's just you are the embodiment of what happens when we allow ourselves to free ourselves to be who we were born to
Mm,
be, you
mm,
know?
yeah,
And you're like a stand for that for all of us. So
thank
much
you.
gratitude, yeah, for that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you for seeing me.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I just want to jump in if you're cool with that.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
All right.
Let's get it
So
popping.
let's get it popping. Hey ladies, salam alaikum, and invite a Muslim sister if you know one. So, you know, I've been listening and listening to your music, your new album, and the more I listen to it, it's like I don't even know like uh, which cate which category to begin with, but I want to start with the pleasure meditation because I think
Oh,
that's
whoa, yeah.
right. That's just so present, um,
Yeah.
and kind of walk us through that. Like what for me when I'm listening to that song, I hear the self love, the allowance of liberation.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me more about what inspired that and what you're sharing with us in that song.
Yeah. Thank you for asking. The song Pleasure Meditation had a lot to do with self-love. I'm humbled by the experience of learning how, like, that is the point of entry to all that you want out of love.
Mm,
I really sometimes can't believe how much that is the point of entry into all that you want in life, is to love yourself the way that God loves you. That's all self-love is to
yeah,
be the reflection of the love of God for yourself. And when you are aware of that, now you have to be accountable to be the embodiment of that. So pleasure meditation is a way of putting that type of love in the framework of intimacy, of sexuality, sensuality, the conversation and language you have with yourself about your body, about pleasure, about relationships, is being able to see the inner conversation that you had about intimacy, love, and being able to say, whoa, I believe that about myself. I say that about myself. That's what I believe that I deserve. You know, in all your fullness and all your power and all your healing work, sometimes there are these spider webs of beliefs when it comes to intimacy and love and sex. And it can be crippling, you know? But then when you bring it into awareness and feel that shame and you feel that embarrassment and feel that like, oh man, I believe that about me. And you bring that divine love into that space and say, I'm going to love myself the way God loves me. And I'm not going to allow this shame to live on in my sexuality, in my pleasure experience, my experience and pleasure, love, and intimacy, because this is what God wants for me. God wants to bring me in. God wants to be in those intimate corners of your mind and of your heart, not just in your religious practice. And so pleasure meditation is a way of enticing your mindset into saying, I'm worthy of the pleasure that is divine, that is connecting, that is aware and conscious. You know, I'm aware of someone who wants that too, you know, and it's not like, oh, I've experienced this, I'm inspired by this experience, I'm going to write about me and my man's experience. No, it's something I've never experienced, but I have faith in that is the standard for me, because I feel it. I feel it's calling in my body. So it has to be a real experience and destiny for my life as a woman, as a human being, as a spiritual being that's very connected to the gift of sex that God has given us. So pleasure meditation, I hope that women can use this as a way to enroll themselves gently into saying, you know what does God want for me, for my sexual life, my intimate life? I have to become aware of that, and then I have to own that in my embodiment and practice, no matter how challenging it is. I wrote it and it's challenging for me, you know? So that's pretty much the heart and brainchild behind that song.
Wow. I hear you saying so many things and I could feel it like listening to the song.
Yeah.
And like, so basically what you're saying is like on a cellular level,
Mm-hmm.
we're divinely connecting to God, to Allah, when
Mm-hmm.
we allow ourselves the full pleasure of intimacy and connecting with another soul. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a gift. I
Yeah, it
mean,
is.
that's how we all are here.
We're talking about the pleasure meditation, Antoinette. We just like started with we're not going in the order of the album.
I know, like you went straight there. I was like, oh, she going to that song first. Okay, here we go.
Well, I was
I
at
love it though. Yeah.
yeah, I was at Exotica this weekend with Tyomi Morgan.
Oh
And so that
wow.
yeah, yeah. So I was just looking around and I was like, man, this is such a beautiful space of belonging and people, the people there, they were really in touch with their sexuality. And I was like, like
Wow.
if people understood how, there should be no shame in sex. There shouldn't.
It's too much
And
shame around it. It's
yeah,
too much. Yeah.
that elephant in the room, that like guilt, shame, uh, narrative needs to just be dismantled. It actually needs to be dissolved.
It needs to
And
be dissolved. Yeah.
right? Because like women are portals between worlds. So like we bring souls in through our bodies, right? Through
Mm.
that divine connection. So
How
it should be
majestic is that?
okay. Like
How
why not
majestic is that? Yeah.
have the pleasure in that, right?
How, why not have, I've always, I watched this movie on YouTube. One of my mentors told me, what is the name of that movie? It's not Sanskrit. It's not erotic, something, but it's a love story based out in India. And
Is it
I
Kama
would,
Sutra?
Kama Sutra.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is the name of the movie.
Yeah. It's good.
And it's so good. I cried. I cried because I saw how much of my framework and my understanding of love and intimacy was a toxic framework, and it was all about attachment and control.
Yeah.
And I was like, how do I get this out of me so I can experience real love and I can give I can receive healthy love from a man and not self-sabotage it. And that movie showed me, like, I won't say how much work that I need to do, but to be aware of my duality, of being divine aware of what's true and consciously aware of my program and conditioning. And so I was very humbled by that. But I agree to your point about releasing and dismantling a lot of the shame around sex, because in the modern world that we live in, we have this conservative space, on one end of the spectrum where it's, the conservatives, the, religious people, and it's just that sex is the elephant in the room. And then you have this other end of the spectrum in society where it's all about like, yeah, let's have sex with anybody. Let's do, titties out. Let's, yeah, liberation. And it's just like, wait, where do I fit in this? What is
Yeah.
my own customized, beliefs around sexuality? And it has been, I'm 39 and I'm still figuring out as though I'm 18. I'm like, I want to hold on to my standards, and I want to, be true in my embodiment of how precious and pure I feel around my womb and around my pleasure. But I also have these hormones, and I also have needs, and I also want intimacy and connection. So it is a very challenging time for modern day women to navigate the divine and the practicality around sexuality, because it can be very primal and just saying I need to have connection, and I need the pleasure, of it. But I also want to be mindful of my womb space. I also want to be mindful of the level of connection I want to have pre and post the intercourse, so yeah, it's definitely something I feel like that needs to be dismantled around sex. The shame, it's just no purpose anymore. It's just like, come on, y'all.
Yeah, and women are designed to really to nurture and to receive pleasure and to give pleasure, but mostly to receive pleasure. And we've denied ourselves that. And so that's what I was saying. I don't know if you
Yeah.
read that or if you heard that part when I was talking about the that self-love is the antidote that all that ills, the generational curses upon women, right? and
Yeah.
um, and it's found a home in the psyche of the great 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 granddaughters, right, who have been like basically robbed of our pleasure in so many different ways.
Yeah.
So and that brings me to, even though I know you have the song called I Forgive, I feel like the song where you're really addressing because there's a preparation to forgiving yourself. And so I feel like Burning Alive is that song that prepares you to forgive yourself. Am I wrong?
No, you are not
Okay.
wrong. You are not wrong. I am again humbled by how home like it can feel when shame arrives
Mm.
or when unforgiveness arrives for myself. It feels familiar. I told someone the other day, she asked me, like, are you feeling grief right now? I was like, yeah, but it's not grief like I'm sobbing, like, oh, I'm so sad. It's a grief. It's like these little these little small cries I have, but it's the cries that the childhood version of me that says, "Oh, I can't believe I'm not worthy anymore. Oh man, you don't believe in you're always rejected anymore." Like it's like I'm grieving the part of me that wants me to believe that I'm always going to be rejected. I'm not worthy. Like I can't transcend these limiting narratives of myself. That part of me that is I'm loosening my attachment to, I'm getting more unfamiliar with, is grieving right now. And so Burning Alive is a sentiment to that experiment, that experience. of being able to let go of the unforgiveness, no matter how much it's familiar to not forgive yourself, no matter how unfamiliar it is to not feel shame. It's like, I'm still going to let it go. And I can't believe how my life has made a home in shame.
Mm.
How
Okay.
comfortable it is for my nervous system. So to believe, to feel, to let go of the shame, it's surprising to that it feels like you're burning alive, and you're walking into this newness, this uncertainty of who you truly are. So beautiful way to look at it. It's very true. It's very true to look at that song in that way.
I really felt that deep grief. Like every time I gravitate towards that song when I'm just like
Wow.
I'm changing it because there's so many things that I mean I've been grieving in this past year, you know.
Girl. Yes, I know. I know. I know.
And how funny is it? Like I'm listening to you say I'm grieving, not feeling like I'm always going to be rejected. Like we get in the expectation of rejection. What's that about?
Ah, are you really taking me here?
I am.
Like,
Let's go. Let's go.
let's go. Let's go. I see you already about this life. I clearly see. Um, what is that about? Whoa, that question. I'm be honest with you. For me, it's been something that's lived with me since I was in elementary school. It's been something that I've had to normalize in my life, that I will be the one that's rejected. I'm different. My love is too big. I'm too generous. Um, my Venus is in Pisces, so I don't have boundaries. You know what I'm saying? It's just like I don't know how to have boundaries in love. Like, this is the narrative.
Yeah.
It's like, so where is my that masculine mountain presence in my life to protect me? And so for me, I've had to normalize rejection because that's what I've experienced with social spaces, with family, with relationships and intimacy, even in society. When you look at what's popular in society, it's like, oh, wait, I'm counterculture to that. Like, I'm counter to how they're doing it. So if I even infuse who I am into those social spaces, I'm going to be rejected. So it's constantly processing yourself in the world and seeing how you match up. And when you realize you rejected here, you rejected here, you rejected here, your nervous system normalizes it and gets used to it, to a point where when you're not rejected, it's like, well, let me figure out, the signs and the the
Yeah.
language of that's going to prepare me for, what are they doing that's going to show me, like, eventually I'm going to be rejected by them. And so I think essentially what I'm saying is that it's a long history the nervous system has experienced and has gathered data and memory of rejection, to a point where you have that expectation in future experience and present experience. And we don't have commercial guides that's saying, hey, this is how you recover, decondition and undo rejection in your nervous system. We don't have those advertisements going on. So we have to figure out what that looks like to undo that. And my God, you cannot do that without the source of all life, the creator God of all life. You can't, there's no way, And so I just definitely believe it's just the history that we have with experiencing society, family, and relationships. Your nervous system can be programmed, and you get used to the rejection, and it becomes like home. It's like, I'm familiar with this. This is what I know, you know? And it's
Yeah.
sad, but it's true for a lot of us. And when we expand our consciousness, we become more aware of what is possible to undo that. that that conditioning.
Yeah. There are a lot of good comments coming in, and I appreciate everyone here.
Yeah, I
I
saw that. I'm like,
yeah. Well, we have uh I know a lot of people are resonating when we were with what you were just talking about burning
mm-hmm,
alive. Let's see. And taking the courage to be despite the expectation of rejection. Hey, Liz.
mm-hmm.
Wow, that part, the absence of the masculine mountain is work in itself. Yeah, it is. It
Yeah,
lingers.
it is. Hey,
And
Adam.
for me, I felt like I was looking for a savior, right? And so that's why, one thing that I love about your music, right, is, hey, Dawn, that's the sister. She was the one that originally told me about your music. She's out
Hi,
in Dallas.
Don. Mwah.
Yeah. She makes beautiful crystal jewelry too. Um, so one thing I really love about your music is the words, right? Because our words create our world. It creates our vibration for the day. There are like 15 songs like that you've written like in total, maybe more than that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's um versus lonely. I like that
Mm,
one. Talk nice to me. I like
mm.
that one. And what else? Of course, free me. The reason why I'm just bringing up those songs in general is because when we talk about dismantling that shame and that narrative within us, within our nervous system, it's so
Yeah.
easy to bring the conversation to the trauma, right? And I don't want to bring that vibration into this conversation because my desire is to create a healing safe space with our
Mm-hmm.
conversation. So I want to call it joy bonding. You allow us to recognize and see all of our experiences, collect all that data about our lives, and then elevate ourselves in joy of I am changing my energy with my words.
Yes.
You see? So like
Yeah.
that's the the
Intention.
the intention, yeah.
Yeah.
And I wrote a whole article about joy bonding. And I
I
was
love
like,
that.
I was listening to
I
your music. I
love
was like,
that.
no more trauma bonding. We are joy
No more
bonding,
trauma
you
bonding.
know?
We are joy bonding. Well, that's where, burning alive versus lonely, pleasure meditation, high commodity. Like I mean, the joy is that so many of us have taken on this journey.
Yes.
To know that it's not one of us, it's not five of us, it's millions of us.
Mm-hmm.
It's safe enough for me to say there's thousands, but there's possibly millions of us
Millions. Oh,
that have
yeah.
taken on the journey of awakening to who we truly are and being able to explore all these versions of the me. And so the joy bonding comes from that we are not alone. Like, aha, here we are, we're finding each other.
Yeah.
And the music is like bringing us all together, if you will,
Yeah.
and helping us see like, oh, we're all going through we're all in this same class, we're all in this journey together, and we can celebrate that we're doing it. We're doing
Yeah.
it.
We're doing this.
We're doing it. We're doing the work. We're being the embodiment of what we're learning. And we can rejoice and we can celebrate now despite what's going on in society, despite the internal reflection of that, of exploring all of these versions of ourselves and collecting all of this data and becoming aware of all these versions. We can celebrate now because the victory is in the awareness and the accountability of to that embodiment of that awareness, to love yourself through it all, no matter what is happening. So I think, again, I reiterate, the joy bonding really is inspired by realizing that we're not alone in this me versus every me journey. It's like, oh, we can be together in this. Self-love includes community and village and tribe in the collective as well.
Yeah. And that's, that's what let's get, like, speaking of words, let's like just say some of the things, right? So for Muslim women, a lot of the me versus every me is, there is a leaning into our titles, right? Into our roles, and kind of subjugating ourselves in that way, and robbing ourselves with our words, and choosing to project instead of connect with each other. And that comes from,
You
I get
still
a
there?
call came
Okay,
through.
you're back.
That, yeah, I'm
No
still here.
problem.
That comes with, all the different me's. Like, I'm the mom, I'm the sister, I'm the daughter-in-law, I'm the wife, and then projecting onto others our insecurities or our inadequacies in that. And I want to speak to, I want to ask you, on the emotional level, what would you offer, to our Muslim sisters to just collect themselves inside and be like, what would you say to offer them the chance to stop this, judging and doing that to themselves?
So let me be clear on what you're asking, or what you're speaking to. Are you saying like within the Muslim women community that they have all of these labels that they have, and they're responsible to these labels, and because they're responsible to these labels, they find themselves projecting and judging themselves because they're too busy being responsible to these labels?
Right.
Am I clear?
Yeah.
Okay.
And instead of being responsible for nurturing themselves, they have to, like, I don't have time for me, I've got to,
Yes.
yeah.
Got it. Um, I would have to say to my Muslim sisters is what comes up for me for you all is, and this is a funny response, but go on a treasure hunt for your time.
Mm.
Like
Say that again.
refrain, go on a treasure hunt for your time. See where you have, and be playful with it. Like, ooh, what time can I find today for myself? Let me see if I can find 5 minutes. Let's see if I can find a half hour. Ooh, what treasure hunt can I go on for my time for this week? What if I can find 5 hours this week? Let's see
Mm.
where. You know what I'm saying? That brings more excitement, enthusiasm, femininity to it rather than, oh God, I got to do this thing that I struggle so hard with trying to, like, it's like go on a treasure hunt for your time. Don't make it a job. Make it fun. Make it playful. And then if you have a ally, another sister in the faith, partner with her and say, how much time did you find this week? Text each other, hold
Yeah.
each other accountable, because I find that with women, we need to have that feeling element when it comes to enrolling ourselves into something that we don't feel good about. It has to feel good to do
Yeah.
something that we don't always feel good about. We don't feel good about not having time about ourselves. It's embarrassing. It can feel like shame. It can feel like neglect. It can feel like we're disappointing each other, disappointing ourselves and letting our higher selves down, which means that we feel like we're letting everyone else down,
Yep.
and not doing enough. So I would definitely say that is something that I offer my sisters is going to treasure hunt for your time, like today, like tomorrow,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I love that. It could be the whole track. I love the feminine approach to working on it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and someone was saying it's more cultural labels. And so, yeah, to be honest, I mean, this isn't purely a Muslim thing, right? Because it's
yeah,
really a cultural
absolutely.
thing, you know.
Hmm.
I just want to speak to that because I'm Muslim, right? And I
Hmm.
just,
Yeah.
like whenever
Oh,
I
wow.
have like, yeah, like I don't know if you noticed, but
So
taking that time and being on a treasure hunt. I love that. And just and playing with it, like
Yeah.
and challenging each other to do that,
Yeah, and
and
be like, what did you
celebrating.
do?
Yeah.
Like, what did you do with your 20 minutes that you found? What did you do with those couple, So it can be fun.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So I want to talk about that too. I remember the last time we were like in regular contact. It was like right around Ramadan. So did you end up fasting Ramadan or?
Girl, no. Girl, no.
Okay.
I tried, but I didn't. But I want to try again for sure. It was something that I was very curious about. And I remember you text me a couple of those mornings,
Yeah.
like, so I appreciate your support in that. But I'm definitely going to try next year for sure.
Okay. Yeah, inshallah. It's in
I feel
April,
very
so
called to fasting as of lately. This year I have just felt that whisper, fasting in a true way, So
yeah. It's a real cleansing on a spiritual and cellular level. And that's why I was like, I wonder if this was because she fasted, because like all your songs, I feel like
yeah,
this real spiritual cleansing every time I listen to it. I saw
yeah.
someone put in there a question about if you could speak to past self-forgiveness and how you integrated that with your shadows, something like that. Yeah.
Um, my experience with past self-forgiveness and how I integrated that with my shadows. Oh wow. Um, I'm still working on that. But I would have to say the way that I have worked on forgiving myself is, see, I grew up in a Christian church and we always glorify the external creator as this forgiving God. And so for me, it was about, well, what would it look like to forgive myself the way that I've glorified God forgiving me?
Mm.
What would I die to? What would I resurrect to? What would I give myself if I forgave myself? So it was always trying to mirror, what would a God do? How would God forgive me? Then it went back to, and I'm just telling you what my process has been. It's like, that was like one part of the experience. And the other experience is forgiving myself is how children forgive, like 3-year olds and 4-year olds.
Yes.
They move on to the next thing. They cry, they have this experience, and then they move on to the next thing. So it's like being born again to this refreshing nervous system, if you will, of being able to let go. So working on that refreshment of like letting it go, which I'm not, which I've been working better at, of just
I
like
saw you. You just caught
let,
yourself. Language,
yeah,
man. Language. Watch your
language,
tongue.
watch your mouth. So for me it's always just having that childlike thing, like, yeah, that happened, yeah, I did that, man, I disappointed myself, but I'm always mindful of not being inconsiderate to my human experience. Like, I
Hmm.
don't want to bounce back so tough to where I don't emotionally process, because I know when people rob themselves of that emotional process of being a human, they don't know how to deal with joy and happiness and hugs and affection, and so it's like I want to be able to give myself that experience of feeling the disappointment but not worshiping it and not idolizing it. So that's one piece that I've done with my forgiveness. But it's a carnival, forgiving yourself. It really is. It's very wild, because if you go through these battles in your mind of like, will I do this again? And am I doing it again? And you have to take a deep breath in and just say, it's a new moment. It's a new day. And then the way that I integrate it with my shadows is literally having a self-love language with myself. It's saying, let's say my shadow name is Leela, which is true. Okay, me and my best friend Margie, we name our childhood shadow. We name
Okay.
them. We give them names, and mine is Leela. And I tell Leela, and I say, hey, like, I let you down, you let me down. How we move forward? how do I feel right now? How do I want to feel? How do we feel about this? What actions do, you know what I'm saying? I use
Yeah.
that process of, it's like a therapeutic process of questioning that I use in my daily ritual in the morning. But I also use that when I find myself clouded by my shadows. It's like, okay, how do I feel? How do I want to feel? How do I support myself? And that forgiveness, that unforgiveness and that shame is something to that can be a challenge. But that self-compassion, that self-acceptance, that self-forgiveness can be infused into that space through asking yourself questions like, how do I feel? How do I want to feel? How do I want to support myself with actions to feel better? You know, how did she say, how do I
How
pick
do you
my
pick a
name?
name? Hmm.
Well, yeah, I don't know how I picked my name. I think I picked my name because my government name, it starts with an L. And so it was just like Leela, you know, my middle name is Antoinette. So that's where Toni comes from. And so I just, the A, Leela, you know, so
Hmm. I like
that's how
that.
I did it. It wasn't a deep process.
Yeah. Make it
Sorry.
simple, right?
Make it
Yeah.
simple,
Make
you
it
know.
easy on yourself. There's enough like in the
It's
process
enough.
itself.
Yeah. Yep.
So I love that. Oh my gosh, that's you really broke that down on so many levels. I like the way you were just like, I name it and I'm with it. And so I also heard you say that when you start your day, you choose how you start your day, and you break this down in like a couple of songs actually, right? It's in the morning and mm, inner size, and what's the other
Mhm.
one? There's another one where you break it down about like how to start your day. So
Talk to me
when
nice.
talk to me nice, right? So that yeah,
Mhm.
I was like, there's three songs. Um, and when you start your day, you just you choose to this is a new day, this is a new moment, and I know what I've started doing now, right? So I pray Fajr, right? So for those of you who are not Muslim, that's like the pre-dawn prayer. Then
Okay.
after that, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna choose my vibration for today. Let me get some help with that. My
Yeah.
vibes. So I listen
Hmm.
to
Yes.
Toni Jones, my vibes, right? And then I'm like, okay, I choose to, feel silly today. And you know
Hmm.
what I did? I did
What?
cartwheels in my kitchen before
No.
I made breakfast. I did.
Was
Yeah.
anybody in there with you?
No. I was
I
like
love
surprising myself.
that.
I was really good at doing cartwheels. I was like, okay, go ahead, girl. Because like
Yeah,
it's been a
yes.
minute.
It's been a minute. Okay. That's beautiful. I love that you gave that to yourself. That's dope.
So, and give yourself the gift of incense. I see my sister here, yet a young incense love meditation. Yeah.
DM me so I
Um,
can give you a mailing address. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, she has some. Have you tried her incense?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so. That's what I was saying.
Yes.
She said I've been trying to give. Yeah, please send me DM me now so I can look at it after this live
Yeah, I
and check
only
it
burn
out.
her stuff, like right here. I only burn her stuff. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, and she has some really nice body creams as well. But I
Okay.
digress.
Okay.
uh, so anyway, I guess what I was saying with that is it's great to have our religious routines, but above and
Mhm.
beyond that, how do we choose our vibration
Mhm. Mhm.
every day?
Yeah. It's in the morning, like when you, like I just gave you a formula or ritual that I do in the morning where I ask myself, how do I feel? How do I want to feel? And how do I support myself feeling better through actions? You know? And I'm telling you, when you get that clarity, you have to be responsible to what you're clear on now. And sometimes I have to ask myself, after I ask myself, how do I feel? I'm like, well, why am I feeling that way? What's causing me to feel this way? And And I'm like, well, what do I need to eliminate? Or what do I need to do more of, And so I think it's treating yourself like someone you really care about, you know? Somebody you really care about that's vulnerable, that's tender and sensitive. And you're just like, well, what's going on? Think
Yeah.
about how you are with a child. It's like when a child is crying or you see a young person in distress, you're like, well, what's wrong? Well, why? How? Well, what can we do? Get curious with yourself in that way, like you get curious about someone who's vulnerable or weak or someone you would love that's struggling with something. Like turn that approach to yourself, in the morning and say, okay, this is how I'm going to raise my vibration by being aware of how I feel and how I want to feel and how I want to support myself, how I want to support that feeling throughout the day, no matter what happens, because we don't know what's going to happen throughout the day, you know. But when you have that intention in the morning to say, this is how I want to feel for the day, and this is how I'm going to support, you're supporting your vibration, you're raising your vibration with that practice alone.
Yeah. And we have the choice and the ability to renew that and refresh that, 5 times
Hmm.
a day, like with each prayer.
Yeah.
And I guess a final question I have for you is, uh, so are you already touring?
No, not yet. Not
Okay.
yet. My manager and I are planning that. Well, he's planning it. I'm
Okay.
just I'm just here. No, but they were planning that for next year. We're getting the
Okay.
logistics together and looking at the top cities that support the music. So yeah.
Okay.
Why do you ask?
Oh, I'm just asking because I was wondering if you're not busy in June, I wanted you to come to my retreat.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, we're not
So,
planning the tour in June, so I don't
okay.
think so. So I'm
Okay.
definitely down for that. I'm
Okay.
definitely down for that,
Okay, cool.
for
Dallas, yeah.
sure.
Dawn's in Dallas.
Yeah. Do you have
Yeah.
any questions about the songs? Because we got about 15 more minutes. So,
I
I,
do. So
yeah.
let's see. I broke creative. Okay, so relationship lullaby. I didn't ask about that one.
Mm,
So like I was trying to put the songs in different category of emotional, like more emotional, psychological, physical, and creative. And I put relationship lullaby under creative
mm.
because for me it was like that's
Yeah,
what a
why did you do
relationship
that?
is. Yeah, a
Yeah,
relationship is a creation, like it's a co-creation.
yeah.
And what I heard in that song was how each party is allowing the other to be free to be themselves and together be a different wholeness, you know?
Mm, yeah,
So,
yeah. Everybody, everybody, a lot of us, everybody's experience in relationship is different and the approach they take to it. And when you're a conscious person, you know, you almost require another conscious person sometimes. So I want to honor those who are in marriages and partnerships, relationships, dating experience where the person may not be as conscious. So I don't want you to feel like you can't experience consciousness in a relationship if you have a partner that is not as conscious as you are. Um, so for me, relationship lullaby is creative
okay.
because it is creative because it's like you meet someone who has the same intention as you. You want to create something different. It's like we have these body of experiences and memories and past traumas and relationships, but it's like one thing you have in common is like I want to do this with you. Like because you show me that you can do this with yourself. And so it's like relationship lullaby is two people coming together to create in a gentle way because we're aware of our booby traps or our, you know what I'm saying? It's like, listen, I have these booby traps in my life because I went through this in this past relationship. And I know you got these booby traps because you went through this in your past relationship. So what language are we going to have to be the anthem for how we're going to approach this relationship? How we're going to come together about our own different universes, of experiences and intimacy and relationship and love. And so Relationship Lullaby gives us that language to say, let's create what we want this to be like, despite what our past has looked like. I want to be with you. You want to be with me? Okay, bet. Let's create what that looks like. It may get bumpy, but Relationship Lullaby is going to be that soft language that says, oh, this is why we're here again, because we both want to do the work. We both want connection, and we want it deeply, and we both want it in a fulfilling way. So, and it is also a language of faith for those who've never experienced conscious connection and approach to relationship. It's a way of saying, to reflect what you truly wanted. When you hear that song, it's like, this is it. This is what feels true for me. I didn't have that. I didn't have a language for that growing up. I didn't have a language for that in my 20s, but now I'm creating that language not only for myself, but for other people who are saying, like, I want to do this differently. Where do I even start?
Yeah. Yeah. I really felt that. I feel like I listened to that song a lot. I got divorced this year, and I'm like hearing like the the healing in it, like
Mm-hmm.
new words to um because that's like a category of judgment that I have against myself. That's
Mm-hmm.
a category of judgment that I feel when I'm with other Muslims. Like the first thing out of their mouth is like, "Oh, you're gonna get married again, right? Are you looking for a husband?" It's like, no, I'm gonna breathe right now because like it just happened, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Wow.
I'm gonna allow that healing, to happen
Mm-hmm.
so that I can, allow myself the space to create,
Yeah,
differently.
yeah.
So I really appreciate that song.
Thank
And like I
you.
said, that was like, I mean, that is a healing. Shadow dance, that's what I was going to talk about earlier with that other question about how you deal with your shadows. I love that song because when I
Shadow
listen to that,
dance?
yes, I do. Because like I see all my shadows. I didn't know I had that many. I was like, wow.
Wow. Wow. Isn't it something? It's almost like the pattern that's behind you. It's like that's what my shadows look like. So y'all love me for my light, but I'm telling you, that's exactly how they just duplicate. They just like woo, they just where do they end?
Your light and your shadows, they're the same.
They're
So
the
that's,
same. They have the
yeah.
pattern. That's exactly what my shadows and light look like. They just duplicate and reflect each other, the same pattern and all.
So, like, for that one, what category did I put that one? I put that one in physical, actually.
I love
Although it
that.
straddles for me. It depends on the day. Like, I think
Hmm.
on a different day, I would have chosen emotional. But
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
does that make
Yeah.
sense to you that it'd be physical?
I want to know why you put that as physical first.
Look, I'm interviewing you. I knew we were gonna have a good time. I was like, wait a minute, which way is this
Yeah.
interview gonna go?
You listen, you already know. You already know.
Yeah. Okay, so because I realized I had so many, I actually had to physically pull them out of me, right, to
Mm.
see her and dance with her individually to understand her story. And they all have names, so
I love that for you. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's that song almost didn't make the album. I didn't want that
Really?
song. Yeah, I didn't want that
I
song
could
on the
hear that
album.
too. I could
My
hear
ma-
that.
my manager, my manager was the one that made the executive decision to put that album on the song. My manager and the producer are the same person, so he was like, well, we got to put this as a hit. And then I did a couple of listenings and they even encouraged that as well. So I was like, all right, let's do it. And I've been getting a lot of good positive feedback for that song. So it makes sense for it to be physical because it's dancing. It's a dancey song. You can't help but move to it. And I, in previous conversations and even in my own conviction or idea behind that song is that people approach their shadows in a lighter way and not let's explore approaching our shadows and engaging with our shadows in a more loving way, a more fun way, because shadow work could feel very heavy.
Mm-hmm.
It can feel very violent, and it can feel how can you say
It feels
invasive
like,
to the ego. It's like the ego wants to
yes.
just put up its guards and say, "Oh, we ain't got to go there. Just no, we ain't got to feel that. Nope." Because the ego, let me just tell y'all something. Let me put y'all on game for those of you who want to either be reminded of this or need to know this. The ego is there to protect you
Yeah.
and to know, and this is what's going to help you know whether your ego is in control of your life or not. It's how
Mm.
much you stay in protect mode when certain
Mm.
feelings come up, when
Mm-hmm.
certain emotions come up, when vulnerability comes up, when circumstances come up. Watch how your ego puts you in protect mode and will organize that stuff in a way where it may not even exist anymore. That'll
Yeah.
show you whether your ego is in complete control or not. Because when you approach your multidimensional self, you're able to explore and run through freely in safe ways to where you can feel those emotions, process them, and let them go, you
Yeah.
know? And so to keep your ego in check, you have to expand your consciousness to see where your ego is in control at. And so when it comes to shadow work, sometimes your ego will say, you ain't even got to deal with that. That's the past, whatever, whatever. Like we keep it pushing. But the shadow work is what is going to liberate you from your own ego.
That is so
Okay.
true. Okay.
Isn't it true? And so
It
this
is.
song brings a little bit more high vibration, a lot more lightness to that experience because I'm telling you, woof, it can feel very dark and it can feel very like wicked because this is like, what is in me? Why am I like this? Get it out of me, you
Yes.
know. But we're not. But the blessed thing is we're not the only one.
Yes.
There's so many that are going through this as well, and just be gentle with yourself. Know what you can handle. Make sure you have some allies like a therapist or a spiritual elder, whoever. Like have someone with you as you navigate this stuff because it is only room for one person to do your shadow work, and it's only going to be you. But having allies to help you navigate through it is so important. So I hope that song brings a little bit more light to that experience of doing shadow work.
Yeah. And as you were talking about that, Sister Jenna came in and she's the founder of the Meditation Museum here in DC. And she,
No, really? Hi.
yeah, yeah, she,
Meditation Museum? That's amazing.
yeah, when you come here, I'll take you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should
DC
come.
been calling me. DC has
Yeah.
been calling
You
me.
can stay at my house.
Yes. I
Yeah, I
love
got a big
that.
house, really. So,
What's okay,
yeah,
perfect.
we'll talk about it. But yeah, you should meet her. And she talks a lot about that. So thank you for joining, Sister Jenna. I saw like a whole bunch of people join and I forgot their names because I was trying to focus on what you're
What you
saying.
saying?
But
It's okay.
yeah, but I just want to thank everyone who's here and welcome those who are joining at the end. I will keep this up. And also know this is like a pre-season episode for my Free to Be show. So I'm relaunching my uh, podcast. See, you ended my last season and now you're starting my next one.
Yes, I love that.
Thank
I
you.
love that. Thank you for having me. I always enjoy our conversations every time.
Yeah, I really I appreciate it. I appreciate your music and the light, the joy, the love, and the peace that you bring,
Yeah,
and
thank you.
how you help us to connect with our soul self, right?
Yeah,
And embrace our physical self.
yeah.
And you just embody all the journeys that we're all beginning. And I love you too, cousin. And I just, I honored that you chose the title "Me versus Every Me." I didn't ask you why you chose that. For me, I feel like in the conversation you kind of answered that question.
Hmm.
Is there anything you want to add to that?
Why it chose me versus every me. I think it's a human story. You know what I'm saying? We've all dealt with these multiple versions of ourselves, and we have normalized trying to put them all in one box and to make ourselves more normal and presentable. It's just like, this is who I am. And it's like, no, it's like, in order for us to be comprehensive to other people, it's like we want to just present this one version, right?
Right.
And it's one thing to do it with society, but we do it in our own intimate relationships when we're multidimensional beings. And so, in order for us to have a way to invite people into that multidimensional self, you have to cultivate that relationship with all the versions of you. And so, what I've consistently said is that it's like the me versus every me experience is the human experience of bringing the call.
Yeah,
Sorry
I
about
can
that.
tell. That's right.
Um, but it's like bringing all of your versions of yourself into the living room and saying, listen, everybody, I'm going to love you guys. If I can't heal you away, if I can't podcast you away, if you're going to be with me for the next 5 years, the next 2 months, I still have to live my life, that feels good. And I accept all of you. I don't just accept the versions of me that make great choices, but I accept the version of me that makes perceiving mistakes sometimes. So it's a self love journey, the me versus every me. It's saying I'm going to love all of myself. I'm going to accept all of myself because where I'm at this point, all of those versions have brought me here. And I
Hmm.
have to have gratitude for that whole self. And so this album is like the soundtrack to that experience because it is dark, it's light, it's every texture, every color,
It is.
every vibration. And I think that's why so many in the human family can relate to this album and can relate to affirmation music because it is the soundtrack to this experience of navigating this internal world, of being multidimensional. Past, present, and future is happening often in our minds. That's something to navigate, you know? So
It
this
is.
this music normalizes that experience a lot more. So
Yeah. And it frees us, like this is one thing I think I said before you came on. Like we listen to Nasheeds as Muslims, which is basically for the elevation of your soul, right? So we
mm-hmm,
when and usually the music is mostly just voice and
mm-hmm,
percussion, kind of like your music. So I'm like,
mm-hmm,
as Muslims, we have to listen to your music because it's to the elevation of our souls, right?
mm-hmm. What
So
did you call it? Nasheeds?
Nasheeds.
How do you spell that?
It's Nasheed.
Okay,
Nasheed.
Nasheeds.
Uh-huh.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Well,
that's
this was
basically, you didn't even know that's what you were doing.
I didn't even know that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
Nasheeds. I like that word. I'm gonna look that
Yeah.
up.
Clearly divine. So yeah, Nasheeds, I think it comes from Nasia. Nasia is like advice, really good, divinely inspired advice.
I
So,
like these words.
yeah,
I'm a
words
word
matter.
girl. Yeah, words
Yeah,
matter.
me too.
Words matter.
Yeah, 100%. So again, I thank you so much for spending this time with us today and for your music and um, keep blessing us, and
Thank you.
keep yourself open to those divine downloads.
Thank you so much. I love you, girl. I appreciate you. And when I'm coming to DC, I would definitely let you know.
I love you too. And yeah, absolutely. You're welcome anytime.
Bye,
All right.
everybody. Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for joining the conversation. Now, take the time to reflect, introspect, and implement at least one action. Be in your body, be in your soul, be in your spirit. Be free. Until next week.